Ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on this journey into the world of martial arts, it's crucial to recognize that the development of a new fighting system is not merely an art, but a dynamic evolution. It's a testament to the human spirit's unyielding quest for excellence and self-discovery. In the mid-20th century, the legendary Bruce Lee introduced us to Jeet-Kune-Do, a philosophy that shattered conventional martial arts boundaries, emphasizing practicality, adaptability, and the relentless pursuit of self-improvement. This revolutionary concept challenged the status quo and forever changed the landscape of martial arts. Shotokan Karate, founded in the early 20th century, emphasized powerful linear strikes and simplicity. This discipline birthed a new era in karate, setting the stage for countless evolutions within the martial arts. Judo, created in 1882, introduced a fresh concept of using an opponent's force against them, emphasizing technique over brute strength. Wado-ryu karate is a traditional Japanese martial art that blends elements of karate with principles from traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, founded in 1939. Wado-ryu places a strong emphasis on the concept of harmony and way, which is reflected in its name, Wado, and its philosophy. As we dive deeper into the world of martial arts, remember that innovation and evolution are not only welcome, they are integral. We are here to explore the genesis of Ibuke-do kick fighting, a modern martial arts that incorporates the wisdom of the past while forging new paths ahead. Join us as we witness how this system, born of tradition and tested in the crucible of contemporary combat, embracing the spirit of evolution and adaptability. The journey begins here.
Each hood had their own gang. You know, South Side, East Side, West Side. You know, there were a lot of gangs at that time. Because there were a lot of drive-bys back then. And, you know, you kill one of ours, we kill one of yours. That was going on here in Rochester. Back in the 70s, I belonged to a school, and I used to have this yellow belt. Then the Grandmasters, they had, you know, the ones from Rochester and the ones from Japan. You know, they had a discrepancy, and they took away all of our yellow belts, and they gave us blue belts. And then, you know, everybody in the class was confused. But what does this mean? Does this mean I'm higher than a yellow belt, what I used to be? Or what? And then the next week, he had us take our belts off for I don't know what, and that turned me off, you know. And back then, I was a very good kata man. I was a young kid, but I was very expressionist, you know, my katas and stuff. And I started freelancing. I went with somebody else, took what I felt that I needed for my system. Everything was documented in books. And then I went somewhere else. Same thing I did. Then I went somewhere else. And then I put them all together. When I started, I kept my crew focused on what we were doing in the dojo and kept them away from the streets hanging out in the corners and stuff. So, it had a big impact on the guys that I trained because I took a few of them guys out of the gangs.
Continental Martial Arts Supplies was established in 1978 by my father, Ernie Tamayo, to meet the demands of the martial arts community, which had grown during that time. People had come up to him and had seen his products and asked him to continue to increase more products. Flash at the time, I think, was still in high school.
Study strategy over the years and achieve the spirit of the warrior. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men.
I started training with Master Flash when I was about 14.
I started training with Master Flash when I was about 7 years old.
Reflecting on how it all started, I can't help but to be reminded of my best friend, Mike Johnson. He told me that one of the school sentries was a martial arts master, and the name of his fighting style was Ibuke-do kick fighting. When Mike told me about Master Flash and the potential of training with him, I pleaded with him to let me come along to train too.
I started training with Master Figueroa. I think it was around 1986. I was 13 at the time. At that time, I was actually training in Ishinryu karate.
I've been training with Johnnie probably about 7 years.
Well, we trained, it was a lot harder because we were doing stuff other places weren't doing. Like we were doing the full contact. Nobody else was doing that. They were doing mostly point sparring. And then when it came to training, we were the ones doing push-ups on knuckles, running down the streets. Everybody was doing it in the gyms and everything. But we were outside training in the rain. We were sometimes out there in the snow. That was the biggest difference.
Everything was very strict with me. If you goofed in class, you paid for it. If I caught you poking somebody in class, you paid for it. If I caught you running around, you paid for it. When you came in there, it was all business. Everything very strict and basic. Stretch together, calisthenics together, drills together, and then you put your stuff on and you go a little bit.
The training is very intense, very intense. He's very meticulous about his katas, about doing everything perfectly. And he'll let you know too.
Well, the training was different simply because a lot of the times we trained in the environment. When we did our calisthenics, sometimes it was right there on the cement. We trained outside in the parks, so it added a bit of realism to our training. Everything always couldn't be done inside of the dojo. And I mean, we trained in the rain, we trained in the snow, we trained in the heat. In the cold. So it's like once you're in those environments and you really had to use your self-defense techniques, none of those things were distracting to you. So I believe it added a sense of realism to the training.
I had a friend that was taking Taekwondo. So I was comparing what he knew to what Flash knew. And it was totally different.
There was one thing that I still remember to this day, and I cannot hear it. Master Flash used to play one song, Eye of the Tiger, every single day at the gym until we kind of took his record and hit it because that thing drove us crazy.
And if I had somebody not giving me 100%, guess what? I give them a 2-week notice. You don't give me 100%, don't come back, please.
Do you hear the grasshopper, which is at your feet?
Oh, man. How is it that you hear these things?
Young man, how is it that you do not?
I think I started about 1969, maybe 1969, 1970. That's when I started. 1975, I was 15 years old. And my dojo was at 48.5 Thomas Street, PRYD gym, upstairs. That's when I started my style and my system was there, 1975. I was challenging other schools. It was like the old Western thing. We go in there dressed in black, they be in white, and we go to the Black Dragon School and challenge them. Then we go to the Kyokushin School and challenge them, and then we go to the Goju-Ryu School. All these schools, I had my group, and we would go and challenge them. I would challenge the sensei, and my students would challenge their students by rank.
We used to go to other schools, and we used to challenge, we used to spar, we used to go in there deep, and we used to spar hard. That was nice. And we had some fun doing that. And it was like I said, we did some stuff that, they don't do that no more.
I was gifted because I could put together martial arts moves and put a system together that would work and dominate. I trained with Ruben in the late 70s, and what he taught me was kick fighting, okay? And that is still in my system that I teach. Right now, I'm a little broken down, but I'll come back like I always do. But, he was a great instructor and stuff, and that's what I got from him in our system, kick fighting. Ibuke-do means the way of internal strength. Okay, when you see a baby laying there, maybe 3 weeks old or something, you put your finger, the baby grab your finger, and you could lift that baby up. And the strength is coming from the breathing, internal. So the style revolves around that. Ibuke-do means the way of internal strength. I still got it.
There is a spiritual component to Ibuke-do. Ibuke-do means the way of internal strength, meaning what we're trying to develop is what's inside of us. It's not about, again, physical strength, but it's more about spiritual and mental strength.
It takes a lot of internal strength to get past your external barriers, or what you think of as barriers. Aging, you get aches and pains, limitations in mobility and flexibility, but reaching in deep and bringing out the chi pushes you to do these things, to a level where if you just thought about yourself, your physical self, and your age and your limitations, you wouldn't think you could do.
It was more than just mastering kicks and punches. It was about a deeper understanding of oneself.
It's the strength you have within side of you. It's not where you pump up weights and pump up your muscles to be big and strong. The internal strength comes from inside, and that's the power that you have that you don't realize until you train with Master Flash and he teaches you how to bring that power out.
Don't you want to become the top fighter of all?
The training is very intense, very intense. He's very meticulous about his katas.
Some of the techniques that pushed me to the limit were the push-ups, the sit-ups.
We were outside training in the rain. We were sometimes out there in the snow.
He made me cry a couple times.
Kickboxing is pretty tough, but the training with Ibuke-do was way more intense.
Maybe you remember the old drill. We make a circle, everybody got a number, and then I got you in the middle, and you're in the middle. When I say the number, that person is coming at you, and you got 3 techniques to defend yourself. High block punch, roundhouse, or whatever. I'll say 2 numbers. You got 2 coming. Or I'll say 3, I go all the way to 5 until they just blast you. Or I'll just say 0, and they all coming at the same time, and see how you act. Some people collapse. Some people start laughing. Some people try their best. And I watch everything so I could know what I got to work on with that student.
Something special happens to Midtown Plaza at Christmas time. Visit Santa on Magic Mountain, ride the Midtown monorail, see the largest Christmas tree of the season, and convenient shopping in over 80 fine Midtown Plaza stores and restaurants. Free inside parking weeknights and weekends, extended hours for shopping. It's Christmas time at Midtown Plaza, right in the heart of downtown Rochester. Midtown Plaza, a holiday tradition, a shopping pleasure.
All right, here we are, right at Continental Martial Arts Supply, which has been a staple within the martial arts community here in Rochester, New York, for many, many, many years now. Actually, this is where I used to come ever since I was a child and ever since I started my martial arts career here in Rochester, New York. I mean, this is where we came, especially during the 1980 Ninja Boom. This is where we got all of our martial arts supplies, weaponry, ninja suits, everything.
During the Ninja Boom, Haven had a couple students that, man, they be carrying spikes and nunchucks and stars, shooting stars, and they know who I'm talking about. So, you know, I had quite a few of those ninja ones.
Well, during the 1980s, there was a big ninja boom. Basically, you saw ninja everywhere. I mean, from appliances to ninja movies. I mean, and that was like one of the things that really got me interested into the martial arts and got me deeper into the martial arts. But, you know, I was one of those kids who had, you know, had a pair of nunchucks in my book bag in school. You know, I had the ninja suit, spent a lot of time up in the trees. You know, it was a wonderful time for me. Much like a fine blade tempered in the hottest fires to attain its edge, a martial arts system must endure and adapt through testing and validation. This process is an unyielding quest for efficiency, for that which works when the pressure is greatest. Imagine the young Bruce Lee, who in the 1960s sought to liberate martial arts from tradition and constraints. His Jeet-Kune-Do was a revelation, but it had to prove itself in real combat. To demonstrate that fluidity and adaptability it preached were not just words, but actions. This trial by fire showcased the worthiness emerging from practicality and adaptability. Gung Fu is a variant of the term Kung Fu, which refers to Chinese martial arts. It is also commonly known as Gung Fu in Cantonese. The birth of Gung Fu or Chinese martial arts cannot be attributed to a specific individual or year. Kyokushin Karate is a full-contact martial arts style founded in 1964. Oyama was a renowned martial artist who sought to create a karate style that emphasized realistic combat and rigorous training. The name Kyokushin roughly translates to the ultimate truth. The birth date of kickfighting may vary. Kickfighting, in essence, involves a combination of striking techniques with a heavy emphasis on kicks, making it a versatile and dynamic approach to stand-up combat. It's practiced for self-defense, sport, and as a means of physical fitness and self-improvement. In the middle passage of a martial arts journey, the worthiness is measured through sweat, grit, and often pain. It's in the dojo where techniques are refined and adjusted through sparring and drills under the watchful eye of experienced practitioners. It's on the competition mat, in the cage, or the street where a martial art is validated as a practical means of self-defense. The system of Ibuke-do consists of 4 different styles: Kyokushin karate, Kung Fu, Wado-ru, and kick-fighting.
In Ibuke-do, you'll find 4 systems in one. You know, you got Kyokushin, you got Goti Kung Fu, you got kick fighting, and you got Wado, a little bit of Wado-ru. So you got 4 in one.
Here we see the student testing for his next rank. He's performing the Bokata. We are looking for precision, technique, footwork, understanding of each movement, and the Bonkai, which comes with the kata. Here we see the student demonstrate basic blocks and punches. Each one must be explained for which part of the body you are protecting and which part of the body that you are attacking. There must be a deep understanding of every technique, every movement. Not a breath is wasted. You must remember that in Ibuke-do we train for real-life combat. Here we see the student taking on more than one opponent. Every student goes through this. You must be able to take on more than one opponent, and as you increase in rank, you increase in the number of opponents that you will take on. The ranking system of Ibuke-do consists of 4 quarters. First quarter, which is equivalent to yellow and orange belt. Second quarter, green belt. Third quarter, brown belt. Fourth quarter, black belt. Then the journey of mastery starts all over again.
Kickboxing is pretty tough, but the training with Ibuke-do was way more intense and taught me a whole lot more.
You know, I'm a firm believer that all of your training can't be within the dojo.
It's got different systems, so you have to learn them and put them together so they can work for you.
We did so many kicks.
We did breaking, kata, weapons, self-defense.
As I progressed in martial arts, I've studied other styles. I took Taekwondo, kickboxing, and I tell you, still, I mean, there's a big difference.
I had to break it down. Beginner katas, intermediate katas, weapon katas, advanced katas. Everybody had to learn the basics. Everybody. Our style is with the lead. It's almost like Jeet Kune Do, the lead. The lead blocks, counters. And then you got your insurance waiting. I had two schools, one in Aguadilla and one in Mosca. The two towns, separating them. And I went down there for their first Ibuke-do kickboxing tournament. I was the special referee. We're right here. And we're gonna take the lancha to where? San Juan. Okay, I want you to point where the tournament was. Moca. Donde dice 1-1-1. That was in 1987. And they thought I was an Arab because I had long hair and a big old beard. And I was pretty heavy. The schools over there, they recognize the system. I got one grandmaster that I gave him his grandmastership, and he moved to Florida. Now he's gonna open up an Ibuke-do school in Florida, and I'm gonna go down there to Christian it for him, and he's a pastor. He's a man of peace, and he used to be a police officer in Puerto Rico.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars.
It used to be my old dojo over there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, when I was a little guy, man, I used to be practice all day here. Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little area. Yeah, okay. Look.
Estoy comiendo king crab en Puerto Rico, una playa. ¿Dónde es este sitio?
Arecibo. Este es Cuajito. El faro de Arecibo.
He's eating Cuajito. I'm eating king crab. Unbelievable. Wait.
You could just see that the party is definitely happening here. The festival is in full effect. It's really hot out here, but you know what? It doesn't stop hundreds of people from making their way down here to enjoy the festival. Thousands of people from all over the region made their way down here this weekend to Frontier Field.
Well, in 2001, I was doing my last show at the Puerto Rican Festival, and I was retiring because I got old.
When we did the first Puerto Rican festival, I was there. I was the little guy. That's what they used to say. Oh, look at the little guy. That was me. And then we kept doing the festival after year after year. When the festival came up, they already had him booked. They already knew he had a spot on the show. And that used to bring a lot of more people at the end of the show. People would be asking him, what's the address? Where can we go? And, we'd be doing the break-in. He over there cutting the cucumber off of people's throats and stuff like that, and everybody was like, that's what they wanted to do.
Trouble is, I've no weak spot, so it won't work. I'm sorry. Try something else.
I remember when the doctor came in while he was still in emergency, and he says he's having a massive heart attack. We don't think he's going to make it. And I remember yelling at the doctor, and I started crying. I said, you do what it takes. I'm not ready for him to go yet. I remember after he had his massive heart attack and he was recovering, we went to an event, community event, and there he got the flu, which caused him to have another heart attack. Thank God it wasn't as massive. And he couldn't breathe, so he did his Ibuke-do breathing. I took him to the hospital then too, and he kept doing his Ibuke-do breathing, and I believe that that's what got him through, because he had no oxygen and his lungs were full. He had no oxygen. He couldn't breathe. And I believe that all the training that he's done, he's worked so hard his whole life, and I believe that that's what got him through there, because he was not supposed to make it according to the doctors, but not to God.
Quite a blow. Quite a blow. You know, he's a very strong person. You think of him as strength. To see him in that weakened level. Now I knew that he was born with a heart defect, so that it was possible. But to see him that way, it was quite a blow.
When I heard Master Flash had a heart attack, basically I went into a panic. You know, that's a very serious situation. But one thing that I always knew in the back of my mind with the training, that he was strong. I knew that he would get through it. But at the same time, it was a scary situation. And, you know, I mean, I don't know what more can you say, because he was a mentor of mine, like a second father figure to me. So, again, it was a scary situation when I found out that he had a heart attack.
When I heard the news of Master Flash being inducted into the Martial Arts Hall of Fame, I was filled with an overwhelming mix of emotion. Excitement, pride, a tinge of regret for not being able to be there in person and witness the ceremony.
When he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was with him because we actually went down there for a competition, and then they had to inducted him into the Hall of Fame, and you know, we were all there representing him, all of us. There was about 15 or 20 of us there, and you know, it was a nice time.
When he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, that was very amazing. I mean, I never expected that. That was a shock to me. That made me feel like he was my father. That really touched me, knowing that he actually is somebody that's good and not a fake.
We went to this restaurant called the Silver Dragon. It's a Chinese restaurant in Toronto. So I had my tuxedo on, and I'm in there all gun-ho, because I'm being inducted. I got 14 students with me that are going to fight the very next day. So, I knock on the back door where we're coming in, and this guy in a kimono, grandmaster from Japan, from some style. I see him in a kimono. We're at a Silver Dragon Chinese restaurant, so I figure he worked there. I didn't know that he was the master that came from Japan to give out the plaques for the inductees like me. So he looked at me and he said, and walked away. And then I said, "Hey, I'm gonna tell your boss, you were rude to us. We come from Rochester." So the promoter comes, he sits us down, and he goes, "Did you meet the Grandmaster from Japan?" I can't remember I can't even try to say his name. It'll be disrespectful. But, and then I said, "No." And then he pointed him out, and it was the guy in the gold kimono. The guy that I thought worked there, that was going to seat us down. And it was so embarrassing, because I kept saying, "I'm sorry," over and over and over and over. And then when he presented the plaque, he said in perfect English, "If you say sorry one more time, me and you in the parking lot, we're going to go." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, I ain't going nowhere." I ain't going. But it was an honest mistake. This was by the falls with my 14 fighters that I took with me when I got inducted. And it was a classic picture because A couple of them ain't around anymore, so it always touches me. Now, at the tournament, they lined up all the masters. You can see I'm in the middle. I'm the young, good-looking one with the black mustache. Yeah, I had the black mustache. Ain't black no more. You know, Father Time catch up to you and things happen. But I fought almost every one of them except two. But it was an experience fighting another grandmaster, and they're doing all their tricks, and I'm catching them every time. So, you know, that let them know. They know me. I got my place over there in Toronto, so I'm very well known over there. I got people calling me out when I go over there, just to go to the falls. They'll point at me and start talking. That look like Master Flash. And they'll come, give them a little autograph if they want it, or a picture with them. But, you know, it's like, it's gratification because I worked so hard all these years, training people hard, for they can be hard.
When Master Figueroa was inducted into the North American Martial Arts Hall of Fame, it was a proud moment for myself as well, too. Because it was like, hey, I studied with this great master. He's been recognized by all of these other masters, and he created his own system. And, you know, and even with creating your own system, that system has to be vetted. It has to be pressure tested. And he did that. And the two ways by doing that is basically you fighting other masters and fighting other instructors within the martial arts community, and creating and teaching and producing great students.
Winning every title in the black belt division at least once. And every time I won, my students won. Every time my students won, I won. And at the end, we all win. Because I get very proud, you know, other people I've taught, and when they know my background, that I made it to the hall, it's a proud moment for them too.
Continental Martial Arts Supply would like to congratulate Master Johnnie Figueroa on being inducted into the North American Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Johnnie.
And each of us is now a master of his own style.
It's a pig roast, and it's like a gathering. Old students from the 70s to the present, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, it's like family.
I don't know nothing about no. Oh, the Cali.
I still got people running into me at Walmart. Ibuke-do. Remember me? I can't remember. It's Nissan-chi. I said, that's what you remember? He said, I forgot the rest. But, you know, I'm talking about people with gray hair. Well, you know, if you've been teaching for 40 years, you know, you see people you don't they recognize you. They recognize me because of my voice and the way I walk. But I just want them to remember me as a good instructor, a good motivator, a good trainer, and a good person.
Master Figueroa is somebody who he acknowledges everybody. He says hello to everybody. He treats everybody respectfully. And the Ibuke-do system, I think, is one of the greatest challenges of any style ever.
People would come see what he had to offer. Now, when they seen what he had to offer, that's when people started like, okay, I can do this. They would come in, and we treat everybody like family. You know, we used to have picnics, and he used to do stuff for the kids on certain days. We had things going on. That's why I think a lot of people used to come to us, and he still got people that come up to him and be like, hey, I remember you from back in the days when you did this, and you had it. It opened up a lot.
He was actually the security at our school. I was going to Monroe High at that time. And I noticed he would always wear his jacket that had Ibuke-do kick fighting on the back of the jacket. So I asked him about what was Ibuke-do and explained to him that I was studying Ishinru, but it was getting somewhat expensive for me to take those classes. So he asked me to do a kata. I performed my Seisan kata right there in the lunchroom. And then from that point, he told me to come on and start training with him. And actually, I've been training with him ever since.
The parents of one of the students calling because they were having problems with their son. So they turned to him for advice and asked him to advise their child. And he did.
Yeah, he definitely embodied the whole Ibuke-do. He persevered through all of that and came back. And when people, doctors had counted him out, had wrote him off, yeah, he's got that inner strength.
I know Master Flash he knows me since I was small. And he was always like a role model. I never had a brother, so I consider him my brother. And that's how, I always portrayed him as my brother. If I had issues, I'll talk to him. And, we were always there looking out for each other. And he always had my back. And if I had something going on, he'll pull me to the side like, don't do this, don't do that. But to me, yeah, he was like my big brother. Because I never had a brother.
How does it feel to be the daughter of a living legend, a master of karate who's been inducted into the Hall of Fame? I would have to say it's an array of emotions. My father was very busy throughout childhood, and something that gave us comfort as we got older was that he fulfilled a role of not only a mentor, a father, a leader in the lives of a lot of children that, for the most part, was raised in a single family household.
We were small. All of a sudden, you got black belts in Puerto Rico. You got schools in Puerto Rico. You got, it opened up. And then you had a lot of people that came through us. But that's what it was. Went from something small to, it was big.
I'm incredibly proud of my father. Anywhere he goes, he has reputation and precedes him. And, it's not everyone could say that their father is a living legend. And that's what my dad is to me and to many.
Master Figueroa, a modern-day warrior and visionary, stood as a beacon of innovation, challenging conventions and pushing the boundaries of martial arts. He didn't just teach, he proved. In epic duels against other masters, he demonstrated the practicality and effectiveness of Ibuke-do. With each victory, he etched his name into the annals of martial arts history. Master Figueroa's legacy isn't just about personal victories. It's also about the countless lives he touched, the students he molded, and the martial artists that he inspired. In the dojo, the crucible of discipline and growth, novice practitioners became skilled warriors, each carrying the torch of Ibuke-do into the future. And then, a moment of recognition as Master Figueroa is inducted into the North American Martial Arts Hall of Fame. This honor signifies not only his own achievements, but the accession of Ibuke-do to its rightful place among the great martial arts. It's a moment where innovation meets tradition, and the martial arts community pays homage to one of its own. Whoosh.